Hello and thanks for visiting the web channel of Carlisle Events and the Carlisle GM Nationals. I'm Mike Garland, Media Specialist with Carlisle Events, and I'm at Memory Lane Auto Museum in Mooresville, North Carolina, and I'm about to speak with NASCAR Hall of Famer and Carlisle GM Nationals special guest this summer, Bobby Allison. This multi-part series will span weeks leading up to our event in June. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the wisdom of a true racing legend. You've seen video of it, certainly, though. What do you digest when you see the video?
Well, I've watched. I have my own tapes, a couple of them of that race, and I've watched them, and I really enjoy it. But it looks like a movie that that had to be somebody else sitting in the car, and I get no feeling back. But I keep hoping that one of these days I will get that memory back.
You raced in the Indy 500 twice. What was that like?
Well, that was really different. The cars were neat. I got in the car by accident because I got in a Can-Am car one day at Riverside and went way, way faster than the regular driver for that Can-Am car, one of the UOP Shadows. And Roger Penske saw that, and I got bumped right out of the Can-Am car because the car owner was the guy that had been in the car, so he sure didn't want me in the car going faster than him. So I was out of that car quickly, but Roger Penske said, I got to get you an Indy car. And my interest was in the NASCAR cars. I was aware of Indy, but Indy had, in my estimation, had one good race a year. The rest of their races were poorly attended by the fans, and they just didn't hold my attention like NASCAR did. But Roger insisted that I go to Indy, and I went there. I was the fastest rookie qualifier. The engine blew up on the pace lap, and that was the year that Art Pollard had gotten killed in the first practice, and then Swede Savage got killed in the race, and Swede and I were friends. We had met Swede when he came down through NASCAR racing, and Roger came into the garage after the race and said to my wife Judy, he says, "Well, Judy, we'll get him next year." I had signed a 2-year contract, and Judy said, "I don't want to ever come back here again." And Roger Penske opened his briefcase and took the contract out and tore it in half and said, "Judy, if you don't want to come back, you don't have to," which I always admired him for. The next summer, I began driving the Matador, and we were very, very competitive, but the car would always fail right near the end. The engine would go sour, and the engine builders, Traco Engine in California, a big famous engine building company, refused to look at this thing. And actually, what they were doing a little tiny piece wrong in their assembly that was so easy to fix. It was a shame that we waited so long, but I was not allowed to look at the engine until the very last race of the season. And I looked and saw the problem, corrected it, and we won Ontario. So with that, Roger said, "I need you to run a test for me in the car. I told Judy you never had to run again, but I need to run a test. And so will you come to Michigan Speedway and run this test?" And I said, "Sure, I will." So I went there, got in the car, went 12 miles an hour faster than the regular full-time driver that year, Mike Hiss. And Roger Penske said, "You got to get back in these cars." And so then the following year, I was in the car 5 more times. Unfortunately, 4 of those were engine failures again. Only finished one of the 5 races, and that was the qualifier at Ontario. But finished 6th in that, which wasn't bad, but wasn't good enough to really pump me up. And then blew up at Ontario and blew up at Indy and led a lap at Indy, which I thought was pretty neat. And then went to Pocono and was going to be on the pole at Pocono, and Roger Penske's world famous chief mechanic sabotaged the car because he didn't want any NASCAR driver beating the Indy guys. and so I got real shocked by that. But anyway, then I let a lap at Pocono, and then the engine blew up there, and then I let a lap at the dual 100s or dual 200s, I guess it was, at Michigan later on that summer. I let a lap in the Indy car, and the engine blew up, and then I went over and got in the stock car and won the stock car half of the show in that Matador. So had a really mixed bag with the Indy cars.
You've been involved in a couple of notable accidents in NASCAR. You had mentioned the Pocono race that ended your career, but there were also a few others. One that set forth a new standard safety-wise in NASCAR. I believe that to be the Talladega wreck. So talk about some of the incidents as you recall, and what you think they've meant to the sport, for better or worse.
Well, I was an enthusiastic competitor no matter what it was, and so the idea of going fast was what the big tracks were all about. And so I was on the outside pole at Talladega the day that Bill Elliott set the 212-mile-an-hour mark. I was on the outside pole in a Buick at 211. And early in the race, I was coming down through the tri-oval, and my engine blew up, and it blew up so bad that a big piece of my engine went under the car, made the car hop in the air, blew the right rear tire out. It spun around, the wind caught it, lifted it up in the air, and into the fencing I went and tore down a whole bunch of the fencing along the front straightaway there right past the flag stand. They had to red flag the race for nearly 3 hours to repair the fence. Drug my poor old beat-up car out of there. Fortunately, I wasn't hurt, and at Judy's insistence, stayed there at the racetrack and watched Bobby Allison get his first NASCAR Cup win.
You had touched on this a little bit earlier, so I'm not sure what more you could say, but this year does celebrate 25 years of you and Davy's 1-2 finish at Daytona. Conversely, it's the 25th mark of your career coming to an end at the Pocono race as well. What memories do you remember anything? I know you said you don't remember the race at Daytona. Do you remember anything from Pocono, or as you said, is 88 just gone?
88 is pretty much gone. I do remember some short track stuff and some little odds and ends along the way. But 88 still has not come back.
There have been some other scary incidents in NASCAR over the years, including at this year's nationwide race in Daytona where the debris went into the stands. Between what you've personally experienced and what you see now, what are your thoughts on the evolution of the safety of Sprint Cup, Nationwide Series, Camping World Truck Series?
Well, I'm really, really pleased and happy about the evolution of safety in NASCAR. The powers to be and the mechanics and car builders and all the people involved have really gone to work on that, and the cars are really much better than they were in the past, and I'm happy about that. The soft wall is another really great improvement for us, and unfortunately Denny Hamlin didn't have any right where he hit a couple weeks ago, but that would have helped him too. But the improvements are great.
Do you think Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s passing in 2001 has a lot, if not everything, to do with the total evolution of the safety of the sport today?
Well, I think it certainly has a lot to do with it. I don't think it has everything to do with it, but I think an awful lot. He was so loved and so well respected that to lose him in a crash and a crash that didn't look as conspicuously as bad as a lot of things that happened really shook everybody, and they went to work on it.
You mentioned a little bit earlier your buddy Red Farmer. He still drives today. If
Yes.
your health would allow, do you think you'd get behind the wheel someplace for a little bit?
Well, I think had I not had the deal at Pocono, that maybe I'd still be running today. I really enjoyed it. I feel like I was still really good at it there at the end of my career, and Red Farmer certainly proves that with all the right ingredients, you can carry on for a long time.
Do you miss driving today, or did you when you realized that you wouldn't be able to anymore?
Well, actually, my recovery was so long and so slow that I didn't get to miss it. I just Um, Went through the terrible memory loss and slow regaining of my memory and earlier events. You know, when I first started coming around about 2.5, 3 months after the crash, I was conscious, but I wasn't hooked up. And when I first started getting hooked back up, I could remember some things, but just here and there. And I kept remembering more and more, which really enthused me. And then I kept thinking, well, maybe I will remember Daytona '88 and some of the other good things that happened, but I still haven't remembered Daytona '88 or any of the rest of '88 either.
If you were an up-and-coming driver today, would you be more or less likely to want to be a driver today?
Oh, if it was me, I'd probably be just as much want to be a driver as I ever did.
This portion of our multi-part interview series with NASCAR Hall of Famer Bobby Allison has concluded. Come back next week for more from Bobby, and don't forget to visit CarlisleEvents.com to register for the Carlisle GM Nationals or get information on any of our other events at Carlisle and beyond.